Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second anniversary show of Revolutions Per Movie with my incredible guest this week, Kate Pierson. There is no voice as distinctive in the alt-dance rock world than Kate Pierson's. Just ask Iggy Pop, Jack White, and R.E.M., all of whom enlisted her vocal contributions for such memorable tracks as Candy, Venus, and Shiny Happy People, respectively. Best known as the founding member of the singular trailblazing B-52s, Pierson is beloved for her soaring vocals and ear-catching keyboard parts, all at the forefront of the group for nearly 50 years. And now, 9 years after her solo debut, Pierson has crafted a diverse collection of her most personal songs yet, on the infectious, emotive Radios and Rainbows. As Kate says, it's an eclectic group of songs, anthems, dance things, and a disco song. Overall, the album has an upbeat vibe because I wanted to put out something positive in these dark times. I wanted to make it fun. So, with that said, I am so happy and excited to welcome to Revolutions Per Movie, Kate Pierson. Hi, Kate.
Hi. Hey, Chris. How you doing?
I'm freaking out. I'm so excited you're here.
All right. Revolution is the word.
That's right. So my origin story with the B-52s is very cinematic. I'm in junior high. I'm walking down the hall between classes. Someone has a boombox at the end of the hall. They're playing the opening track off your first album, Planet Claire, which has a fade in, right?
Yeah.
So as it's fading in, I'm walking towards this boombox. So there's this weird disconnect of natural sound coming up. And I meet my oldest friend, Tia, who has this boombox playing the B-52s. She's still my oldest friend. I just saw her a couple weeks ago. She hands me the cassette, and I'm like, this band looks like this sounds, right? I'm just like immediately, like, I don't know what to do, but like I'm looking at the picture. At this point, you know, I'm in 7th grade. I haven't heard surf music, garage music, exotica. You know, I haven't heard anything like this. As a teenager, was there things that you were devouring that were like from outer space that were entering you to kind of make Kate Pierson Kate Pierson?
Yeah. Of course. I mean, there's so many things. It's really hard to, go through everything. I mean, I think the first thing that just bombed me was well, of course, the Beatles. Everyone says the Beatles, that just rocked my world. That was something different. It was something so new. And I think I was very, very informed politically and through my whole kind of makeup through the folk music movement. My dad played guitar, so he was really into music. He was a guitar player he always played guitar in the house growing up, but he was a professional guitar player in a big band when he was young. And then he had to quit that. But I was, so he played his 78s and he loved old movies. So I really got into the older, 40s movies. And he loved recording movies on VHS and sending me, when I was in college, he would send me the VHS tapes to watch because it wasn't so accessible, all the streaming and everything. But his jazz and big band music was something I heard growing up. And he had a lot of the hip stuff, the exotica, the Ema Sumac, the Kay Winding, all that kind of stuff. But I think what really just grabbed me so much was this folk music movement, which was, the popular music when I was in high school. And I really don't know how I would have known so much about the political situation at the time if not for that, because it was Broadside Magazine and all these folk magazines that were talking about topical folk music. I had a band in high school called the Sun Donuts. That was a folk protest band. And I sent a song into Broadside Magazine. They didn't publish it, but that would really grab my heart and soul, to really got into me more than just music. It was the music, the politics, the attitude, the rebellious attitude.
So was Broadside Music, this magazine, I've never heard of it. How was it laid out? Was it like a pop magazine for folk music?
It was very bare bones. It was just like kind of like, well, I guess the original broadside from maybe I don't know, it was in the 1800s. Maybe it was just like something printed on one page that people would
Wow.
see. That might be a little wrong about that, but that's kind of what I remember. So it was a very Spartan kind of publication, no glossy pictures or anything, but it published songs with the lyrics and the little stories, but mostly it was publishing songs with the lyrics and how to play them and the chords, and laying out kind of a simple way to get the music out there that people could play themselves. Because the whole idea of folk music is anyone can do it, everyone should play it, everyone should sing it. And Pete Seeger was always that champion of everyone should sing together like they used to. So there were kind of stages of that development for me. And then when the Beatles came along and the 60s, all that 60s stuff, which I still love. And then, then came psychedelic music. And I remember, like your experience with the boombox in college, someone putting these headphones on and said, listen to this. And I hadn't heard the West Coast psychedelic music was just coming, just barely, didn't even make it to the East Coast yet. Wow. And he played Horse Latitudes by the Doors. And I was like, oh.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's what everyone said. So that blew my mind. And then I, of course, I've got into, Grace Slick and Janis Joplin and a lot of the female singers then too. And then, of course, on and on, punk and so many other things. But I think these things hit you in stages. It's like when something new, and even when rap started, we were on the scene, disco was ending, punk was happening, and the whole hip hop culture was starting to come in, and seeing kids come into clubs, little kids breakdancing in these, there were clubs that didn't have alcohol. There was a club that was basically a roller rink, and it would turn into a dance club in the weekends. So you could put your stuff in a locker and dance. And these kids would come in from the Bronx and break dance, and there were graffiti artists. So there was such a mix of cultures. And that was another kind of, wow, this is something really different. And now I'm just waiting for the next big thing.
Right. So when you're in the Sun Donuts, right, which is a fantastic name, by the way, were you already finding out that your voice could do what it does, that it could soar and hit these heights, or did that come later?
Well, I did realize it then, but I couldn't fully own it. I did fully own it when we had the Sun Donuts. And then I think, and I continued to play through college. And then I kind of lost the thread. I went traveling through Europe, and I don't know why. This is one thing big why in my life. Why didn't I take a guitar or get a guitar over there? Of course, I didn't have any really money, but get a guitar somehow and busk around.
All right.
But instead, I just traveled around, and I sang whenever I could. And I remember singing, some people were singing on the street, and some people said, wow, you have a great voice. But I didn't fully realize it. And even when the B-52s started, I didn't fully own my voice. I played keyboard and bass, and the B-52s, 3 singers. So everything was sort of chopped up, except for, the girl songs. But I just felt like I didn't fully come into my full voice until later, when I realized that I had a voice that people recognized.
So what drew you to Athens?
Well, the hand of fate.
Okay.
A friend of mine from Athens gave me a picture, and it was a collage, and it had a hand, and then it had a sign that said fate. And I feel like something drew me there for sure. But I left and traveled around Europe for almost 2 years after Kent State happened. Mm-hmm. And I worry right now with the National Guard and the Marines coming in. Is there going to be another, Kent State like incident? I remember that thinking, oh, if you protest now, you'll be shot. So I'm out of here. I'm going to Europe. And that was always my goal. And that, coming back to film, I was so into French New Wave and art house films And that was the thing in college, that it seemed like everyone watched those films. That was the thing to see. You went to see Bergman and Fellini and Antonioni and Kurosawa. Those were the films that were like the popular films. And I don't know if I was living in a bubble or it was just a college thing. But even when I came to Athens and found my bandmates, they were all into the same films. So everyone, it seems like in my sort of bubble, and maybe it was a really large bubble, I don't know, but it seemed like that was the au courant thing, all those kind of independent films. And that was really, really influenced me. So I really wanted to go to Europe, and I traveled through Europe. And when I came back, I had met my future ex-husband, Brian Cocaine, who is from Manchester. And we wound up through a friend going to Athens because people were driving there, and we just thought, okay, we'll just go there.
Right.
And our friend hooked us up with a woman who had this little cabin that was set back in the middle of a field, a funky shack, and had a tin roof, rusted, and it had $15 a month was the rent.
Wow.
So we had a garden. We did a back to the land thing. And then I gradually met the rest of the band, and we started jamming, and it all happened.
Yeah, it's amazing. Spending time in Athens, to me, it's such a split of culture. And like, when I kept hearing about all these bands coming out of Athens, playing this amazing dance music, Pylon, yourself, REM, even early on, were very like, we just want to party and dance.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, this is a massive scene. Everyone in the city is into art and music.
Yeah.
And then I go and I play, and I'm like, if I go get a slice of pizza and I'm on my way back to the club, I'm like, oh, I feel like somebody's ready to fight. Like there's a different energy sometimes, like a very sports culture energy.
Oh, yeah.
A very fratty energy. And then there's this art energy.
Right.
Has that always existed in it because it's a college town?
Well, you would not believe what it was like when we started. It was a farmer's town. It was a seed store, Farmer's Hardware, one of my favorite stores. Uh-huh. And the feed store, the seed store, the Farmer's Hardware, and some really old-fashioned kind of department stores.
Right.
So, and there was a shoe store that basically had this pile, it's just so weird. Fred and I were always like, what was that? It just had a big, like a pyramid of shoes piled up in the middle of it. But there were some odd stores. But the university was very separate, and there was a whole frat vibe there. And I remember when we hadn't even started the band yet, and we went to this place called the Station. It used to be a train station. That was a little, clubs, little things happening there. And some frat boys threw like a brick at us because Keith had on a little red wig, and we were dressed weird. And it was this real negative energy that we got. The next year, when we started the band, or like a year and a half later, Planet Claire was blaring out of the frat house.
Wow.
So things really started to change, and the university was very separate. And then all of a sudden they built a new mall in Athens, and all those stores died out. And all of a sudden the downtown became this university, college town.
Okay.
Where before it was a farmer's town, now it was a college town, and all these little clubs open. But when we started, there was literally no place to play, no clubs. There was a folk club that didn't let us play until later. The Last Resort. Funny, it was called The Last Resort.
There you
go. We had to go play house party. We had to play house parties, and that was our first gig at a house party. And then we played at the Coke Room at Emory University, because Danny Beard, the guy who put out our first single, and amazing that he really helped us so much. Athens was such a different place. So it's so different. And there was that frat energy, but that changed a lot. And then the art school there's always been this bunch of art type students there because of the art school and the wonderful library there. And it's a university. So there's inevitably a group of crazy art students. And Yeah, we had a big circle of friends, not all students, and we weren't really students. Fred had spent 2 years there at the University of Georgia, and he was an agriculture major. Yeah, agriculture, whatever it was called. It wasn't his deal, so he dropped out. And then he worked at the health food restaurant, and I worked at a sort of student job setting up media. It's called media services. So we just kind of made our way with small jobs. Cindy was working at the Whirlicue. It was like a lunch counter at the five and dime store. And
Right.
Keith and Ricky, Keith's parents ran the bus station, so everyone worked at the bus station.
Yeah, amazing.
So it was fun. It was great. It was fun creating something in a place where there was sort of nothing. We were the first, and we were the pioneers and the first to kind of forge our way to New York City. There was one band in Atlanta called the Fans, and they encouraged us to go to New York, take a tape to New York and go to CBGB's and Max's and see what happens. So that encouraged us, and we did it. And then we had this trail. You could probably see it from, a satellite, our trail that we blazed from Athens to New York.
Yeah, you mean, so Ann Magnuson sent me these Club 57 membership cards. Every year I get her calendar. Ann's the best.
She didn't send me a calendar.
Yeah, every year a Club 57 calendar.
I don't get that.
Wow, I will.
I'm going to
I'll
tell.
Get on her. Yes,
I'll
exactly. Every year it's like a fresh start.
Wow.
So,
It's
as
great.
a kid on the West Coast, I had a really nice record clerk who would give me his used New York Rocker magazines and Village Voice. And I remember flipping through and just seeing like Danceteria, Mud Club, all these different places with all these, like amazing band names, like What's the Flesh Tones and things like that. So it seems like the city was ready for you and vice versa. Like it sounded like you also really influenced a culture there. Can you talk a bit about how New York embraced you? Amazed that there was a scene that was ready to have pajama parties like at Club 57 and watch monster movies and,
mud wrestling.
Exactly. And it seemed like you were hitting it right at that time.
Well, even though nothing was happening in Athens, it was all happening in New York. So once we got there, it was like, whoa, Patti Smith and the Ramones and Talking Heads, and they were already, television. They were Blondie. They were already playing regularly at these clubs, and so we fit right into that. I don't know why we're always considered, new wave, because we fit right into that scene, really.
Yeah.
But it was, a year or two later when they had just started. But it was so welcoming. I mean, Debbie Harry and Christine invited us to their apartment, and we went, everyone sort of took us under their wing, but it was a very inviting scene where everyone said, oh, check out this band. Just like you said, it's like, check out this band. No, let's go see this band. So when we came to New York to play, I also, saw all the bands I could. I remember just pogoing like crazy to the Ramones and Suicide and Teenage Jesus and the Jerks would play, and just so many interesting bands. It was such a scene. And we didn't stay long because we couldn't really afford hotels. We stayed at people's houses, and sometimes the Hotel Earl or, some funky hotels we would stay in. But we didn't really have, before we sort of really got signed, we didn't have money. Right. But we managed to, stay there for long enough. And we opened the Mud Club. We were the first band. And Steve Mass, who owned the Mud Club, ran, the Mud Club. He had to stay. He had a building, and Brian Eno had an apartment. And Eno was gone, so he had to stay in Eno's apartment. I still don't know if Brian Eno knew that we were staying in his place, but we had a place to stay, and so we were the first band to play the Mud Club. So it was really exciting. Clubs were opening, new venues, new audiences, and we played Hurrahs one night, and it was just packed.
Right.
And Ricky looked out the window and saw this line and said, "What's this line for?" And they said, "That's the line for your show." We were like, "What?" It was so crowded. And that's when I knew, oh, we're really catching fire here.
Yeah, it happened quick. I do have to ask though. I mean, I know that you were broke, but I mean, how much did a wig cost then? Was it cheap? Was it like in your
25 cents,
okay?
25 cents.
Okay, and were they like thrifted basically, or
Oh, yeah.
okay?
I just saw something on the news last night that said, oh, you know, thrifting is really happening now. Everyone's going to thrift stores because of the tariffs and everything. What goes around, it always comes back. But
Yeah, it ain't gonna be 25 cents though anymore.
no, but we went to the Potter's House, which was the original thrift store. There was a pile, like there'd be a bag of wigs, and there'd be a bag of white shirts, and there was kind of a grab it pile, and then there were, of course, the usual like you'd see at the Salvation Army, just racks of stuff. But we would find just amazing stuff there that you wouldn't find anymore. Stuff from the '60s that was just like crazy, crazy orange dresses that Cindy had this dress. It was like a watermelon when you opened it. It was like a half circle, a semicircle, and when she raised her arms, it was the full slice of watermelon.
Oh
It
my
was just
God.
we had just such great outfits that we got from there, and we were very influenced by Fellini films. Of course, we've always said that. We almost called ourselves Fellini's children. The music, Nina Roto music, was very influential. You can hear that in Planet Claire,
Absolutely.
the vocalese kind of things that I
Yeah.
do and we do. So I think we were all very influenced by film and Vogue magazine when Diana Vreeland was the editor, all those kind of really out there models wearing helmets and outsized eye makeup, lashes, as they say, lashes out to there.
But one thing that is so yours that I want to ask you about is the phrasing of the B-52s in terms of how you do a lyric. So like 52 girls.
Well, that's an anomaly because Ricky wrote that song with the lyrics by Jeremy Ayres.
The pacing of it is there's all this breath, so you go like, or in New York City. Yeah, it's like was that you and Cindy playing with that? Or was Ricky being like, here's what I imagine the beats are? Because there's so, whether it's like Lava or whether it's Legal Tender, there's these really interesting, it's almost like beat poetry.
I think, well, a lot of that was Ricky's guitar style. And 52 Girls, really, that's the way he phrased it. But Cindy and I picked up on it right away. It wasn't hard to do that, and we just kind of, it flowed in a lot of ways, even though that song seems like it's got a lot of stops and starts. But something like Strobe Light, which has, it's like, don't stop, right, and then go. And then, so there were a lot of, Ricky's guitar style was so intense, but it had a lot of stops. And it had these breaks that were really intense. And I think we wrote together. We wrote together. I don't think we definitely wrote together by jamming. So the process of jamming created a sort of staccato kind of style almost, because we had to paste the parts together like a collage. So a lot of the lyric and the melodies were broken up because each of us would sing a part. And then sometimes there'd be a dead stop, and then that gives us tension to the next part. I just think that's the way we wrote together, and it can't really be explained except that it's a jam. So when you jam and really let things flow, it's like automatic writing. You just can't plan what's coming out, and the unexpected and the happy accidents happen.
It's so cool. Like dances mess around. Like it's Cindy's. You're like, oh, this is Cindy's moment, right? Like, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, no, we're over in a different room now.
Yeah, because in a jam, all these different things will happen, and we will say, we'll listen to a tape. We recorded things on cassette tapes at first, and we'll listen and say, well, oh, there's that part. How are we going to merge that part with this part? We have to get in this part. Mm-hmm. So some of the songs are just sort of a string of different parts, and you won't see a really conventional verse or chorus repeated. And I think that makes us very unique. But we didn't really think about it. I mean, we knew what a song structure was, but because of the way we were writing, it just didn't fall that way. You know, we just had to put things together, and we wanted to get so much in there.
I know that Jeremy wrote the lyrics for 52 Girls, and you have a song on the new record about Jeremy.
Yes.
Can you tell the listeners about his influence? Because it seemed like, you know, whether I'm talking to like Lance Bangs, the filmmaker, or I'm talking to REM, but can you tell our listeners a bit about who Jeremy was if they're not familiar with him, and like what he did for so many people in Athens?
I mean, Jeremy was a Pied Piper of sorts. He loved people. He loved to talk to people, especially odd people. And later he went to New York City when the Occupy New York was happening, Occupy Wall Street. And he really immersed himself in that and took pictures, took really amazing photographs, and talked to people. So he loved to talk to people. He had been for a while in the Warhol scene. Early on, he went up and he wrote for Interview magazine, and he was Silva Thin. His character was Silva Thin. And I think he really just felt really uneasy in that scene. And he was born and raised in Athens. So he came back to Athens and just became this kind of magnet for anyone who was different. And he organized, and it was I can't even say organized, but we'd go to see a Fellini film and he'd have a party where we dress as Fellini. I mean, Fellini characters. We'd dress in the spirit of Fellini, and he'd have flaming drinks, and he wrote poetry and took photographs, and he painted, and he had a diary, and he was very mysterious too, because at first he had all these vines growing over his house, and the entrance of his house was covered in vines. It was almost like you'd have to, one of those fairy tales where you'd have to hack through the thorn bushes to get through. And my friend Bradley Peterson, who's an artist, said, oh, you know, he doesn't always answer the door. And, you know, it's hard to get in touch with him. But it wasn't really true. He was reclusive in some ways. But then when he came out, he was just this, you know, spirit of light, I guess, that drew people to him. And he was fun to be around. He would just start things like, let's all skip, you know, just stuff let's all skip down the street, you know, just kind of inspiring. He was very inspiring.
Yeah, everybody needs a Pied Piper for sure in their life. You know, what's been amazing when I was, you know, getting ready for this conversation with you is the amount of archival footage. I saw some early footage of the band playing Lava where Keith is on bongos. There's not a drum set yet. I saw an amazing set from the Downtown Cafe in Atlanta in 1978, shot in black and white multicam. And your guitar playing along with Ricky's was so incredible. Like Hero Worship, you're like, and I'm like, okay, I'd not seen this version of the band, right? Live. And just how kick-ass a guitar player you were. And then it's like, oh, now I'm going to go over here and play some bass. Just the fluidity of the B-52s as instrumentalists was really fascinating early on, which I know later everyone kind of like, you're over here at the keyboards, you've got, you know, horn players, and it became more stationary. I just really loved getting to see all the different things that you put into the songs that I didn't know from listening to these records.
I wish, that's another thing, I wish I'd kept playing guitar, because once we got the bigger band with Cosmic Thing, there was really no room for me to, you know, we had we had a second guitar player, a keyboard / guitar player, and a main guitar player. And, you know, Keith always played with Ricky. Keith played guitar. He did some of the guitar parts, and he and Ricky really collaborated very early on. So Keith was always a multi-instrumentalist. None of us were like master players and anything. I mean, Keith really was multi-instrumentalist, and I guess I was too. Ricky really was the guitar master. And he had such a unique style, and the sort of style with playing with few strings. I mean, it's simple, but it's still not simple. It's just kind of amazing what he did. But and then Keith was able to pick up the guitar after Ricky passed and do that, not because he just learned to play guitar. I mean, he had always been playing guitar, and I wish I'd really kept up. That's one of the things in my next life. I want to be like a really great guitar player.
You have another album in you. Come on.
I do. Well,
yeah,
I
I mean,
do.
It's got to play guitar on it.
Well, I have a Christmas album that I'm writing. It's a lot of songs already, and another album, another of crazy songs that at this time, songs that have just come to me on my own without collaborating with anyone. Just songs that I've just have all of a sudden whispering to me, and they're different. So I'm really looking forward to recording that. And then I have some songs that I wrote a solo album before my first solo album back in sort of 1998, sort of in that time.
Okay.
And when the band was kind of just loosely after Good Stuff, and Cindy had left the band, but then she came back, but we were just kind of not doing that much. We were sort of floundering. And I went and did this project in Japan called Nina.
Oh yeah, with the plastics people.
Yeah.
I loved the plastics.
I love the plastic. They were chewy. They had this one
Copy.
It was so good. They were so good.
Yeah, Nina ruled. That was great.
We had a great time. We ate really great food.
Yeah, I bet.
I've been writing a lot of stuff. And speaking of Jeremy, the song that I wrote on this, my first album, Guitars and Microphones, but this one's Radios and Rainbows. The song, If You Give Your Heart to Science, I didn't expect to write a song about Jeremy. I had no idea, because I also write kind of by jamming. I listen to a track, and in most cases, I collaborated with people who gave me, or I worked with them. They had an instrumental track. A couple of cases, I did it remotely where they sent me a track, but most of the time I was in the room with them. But I had no idea I was going to write this song about Jeremy. It just came out, If You Give Your Heart to Science, because he did give his body to science. He mandated that his body would be donated to science. And he died in his garden. And the one thing people said was, well, he died, in a place he loved, doing what he loved, which is kind of a weird, but it's people
beautiful.
Always try to make it like, okay, they died, but
yeah
it was good. It was a good death. But I mean, he really was so influential, and I do really feel like his spirit in that garden, he was so attached to his garden and so loved it. And so I wound up writing this song about him, his death, really, but it's a joyful song still in a lot of ways that tries, really, I think I feel like his joy came through on that song.
Yeah. And I feel like that is a thread in your music and the B-52s. I mean, the B-52s were this amazing force, optimistically, in a Reagan Thatcher era, right?
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, was it hard to kind of push through that? Because we still need that, right? We still need to find ways to laugh and find joy and dance. But you have that was not an awesome period with, the AIDS epidemic and all this other stuff and the wars going on. Was it hard to be the B-52s sometimes in a time like that?
I think our motto was always to do it to have fun, do it to dance. We were the tacky little dance band from Athens, Georgia. I think coming together to write, there were ups and downs and times when we couldn't. There were a few times when we got together, we couldn't, it didn't work, which is kind of crazy, but that, happened later. But we did finally come together and do Funplex, and that worked really well. And, we toured a lot, but I think we also realized that people found joy in listening to us. People found joy and an escape And I guess that's when we were writing too. We found joy in each other and writing together, and this, not escapism, but it was just, finding the joy of music is so healing and music is so elevating and so inspiring that, especially in these dark times, you've got to have that. I mean, I think some of the greatest music has come out of dark times. And the AIDS epidemic was a horrible time, but there was also a need to find joy. Otherwise, we'd just be crushed under it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting. If you look, I know you just played SNL 50, but if you look back at that era of some of the bands that were playing on SNL when you played, yeah, it was like really freeing. It was like, Bowie had just come on with Klaus Nomi, and, you have you guys and the Specials and all this stuff that was just like radiating out of a TV onto, youth that really needed energy and a sense of like, oh, I'm not alone wherever I am, because not everyone's in New York or LA,
No,
So,
but it's uniting to hear, when you find other people, like Fred says, and, others like you. When you find people who like the same music, it's bonding. And I think B-52s fans have bonded a lot and find a lot of pleasure and fun and joy in coming to concerts and recognizing each other and being B-52s fans.
Yeah, it's interesting how the B-52s were, in my head, such a visual band, but I had such little access to you except in photographs or album covers.
Right.
Like, you were on SNL, but there wasn't like a Planet Claire video or or Private Idaho video or Devil in My Car or even Mesopotamia. It isn't really to like whammy that it's like, okay, now I'm getting music videos, like traditional music videos, crazy music videos from the B-52s. Is there a reason why? Was it just your touring schedule? But it just seems like with the people and the artists and filmmakers and your love of film, that I'm surprised that there wasn't any like music videos kind of made for quite a while.
Well, I remember our first manager, Gary Kurfürst, and he was introduced to us by Tina and Chris from Talking Heads, and he was, really did well for us in the beginning. But he said when Talking Heads made their first video, he said, David Byrne's making a video. I don't know why he's doing that. No money in videos. There's no money in it.
Right.
And, David Byrne had the vision, or Talking Heads had the vision to do a video, but that was sort of the beginning of the MTV. If it hadn't been for MTV, there wouldn't really be, because there was no outlet for it, but television was the medium and the message. And
right.
Just having MTV really blasted us into a whole new era. Seeing that visual, like you said, you could see us in magazines. Right. And there were a lot of indie magazines. You could see pictures of the band, but to see videos was really a whole new thing. And I loved MTV. I mean, everyone was glued to it.
That the Legal Tender video and Songs for a Future Generation were like pitch perfect introductions to a lot of people who had not seen you on SNL. Yeah. Immediately when Legal Tender's music came out of the TV and you see a wig silhouette spinning, you're like, oh, I'm home. Yeah. It's so great.
And the colors it was just so vibrant. And then when we did the Deadbeat Club video, which was at Armstead Welford's house, Armstead from Love Tractor.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And that one was really inspired by Fellini films. That was just really trying to capture that Fellini-esque spirit. But it really was a party in a way at his house. It really captured the spirit of Athens a lot, I think.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I mean, you start working with like amazing film directors.
Jeff Price was the first to be really a filmmaker. He was a lot of the other directors were music video directors.
Right.
didn't have aspirations, or maybe they did have aspirations to make a major film, but Jeff Price was really a filmmaker's filmmaker, kind of.
Yeah, and he captures it. It's like it's black and white film stock. You can see the grain in it. It's shot beautifully, and it does have that feeling of like, La Dolce Vita, where characters are coming in and leaving, and like lights are kind of falling over people into darkness. It's just like, and what's going over in that corner, and what's over here, and then of course Michael Stipe just flops on
drifts in, of course, as he would.
Like, what's going on here? I was driving by, saw some lights on.
And that's Athens, totally Athens, because when we started in Athens, it was like that. You would just, and even when we moved from Athens kind of quickly after we got signed with Warner Brothers, every time I went back, there was just some crazy house party, or let's go to this place called Stitchcraft, which was this kind of bombed out former factory, and someone brought a boombox and we had a party there. I mean, it was just this spontaneous madness that happened in Athens, or just going over to someone's house and everyone would dance. And I think that's the key thing in Athens. Everyone wanted to dance. Our friends all wanted to dance, and we would dance during the day. We would dance around the table at John Taylor's house. He would make cornbread and we would all dance, and we still like to dance. But I think that was the inspiration a lot for the kind of music we made. We wanted to make dance music, and music that would, make people happy, but it wasn't intentional. Well, the dance music part was intentional, but we never intended, let's try to, we did it for ourselves, really, to amuse ourselves in the beginning in Athens. But there was nothing else to do.
Well, it's interesting because at some point it feels like you try to bring that energy to buying a band house and trying to create and live together in New York. I'm sure it wasn't like a party all the time or a dancing all the time, because you had a serious work schedule at this point. You had a lot of pressure on you. But the idea, like, I don't know many bands that are like, hey, let's pull our money and get a house and live together and work together. I mean,
don't do it.
It's not going to be the Monkees, right?
Don't do it.
But cinematically, it's like in my head, I'm like, of course the B-52s did that. And it's like, of course, why wouldn't you on paper?
Well, Ann Magnuson and Tommy Rubnitz did a short film there in that house.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. What is it called? It's like a murder mystery. She has a gun.
I'll find out. If it's online, I'll put it in the show notes. I'll ask Ann if it's available. Yeah. But I mean, it does seem like the B-52s did try to, keep things, for lack of a better word, in a family way, collective, because things happen so fast from when you had that flaming volcano and jamming together to the first single, to going down to Bahamas to record, and then, the album coming out, Saturday Night Live, and just boom, 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 boom. And it never stopped. It was like, it was relentless, your work schedule.
Yeah. We toured like right away off the bat. We moved to that house and then we went on tour immediately.
Right. So it makes sense that you were like, this is a safe place. Like, we can all regroup here, but there was no time to regroup, it sounded like.
Not really. And it was kind of like The Shining in that house. It was such a big, and, parts, we never really even furnished the living room. And we all had, there were different wings, and I chose the attic, which was really the most serene spot.
Right.
And they were bedrooms on sort of two wings, and Fred had one, and Cindy and her husband Keith had one, and Keith and Ricky had the carriage house across the street, and we had a little studio there. And it was not a friendly neighborhood too. The neighbors were complaining.
Oh, great.
Only one neighbor really, but he was a pain in the ass. He was like an old, cranky, former retired lawyer.
Right.
And I fired fireworks over to his house.
What about you had the heaviest equipment out of anyone in the band. I'm assuming that the keyboard you had early on, what was your setup like back then with the bass keyboard and the Oregon? What were you using?
Well, it was a Farfisa.
Okay.
And I remember Keith Strickland and I went to Atlanta to find a Farfisa because that was the sound we were looking for. And everyone said, well, we got a B3 here. We got a lot of B3s.
Okay.
But no, it was hard to find a Farfisa, but we found one. And the Farfisa had a split keyboard. So it was really rinky-dink in a way because the keyboard was all one keyboard, but it had a bass keys on it. So I played bass on the bass keys, the other part on the upper part. Then I got a Korg synth-bass. Anyway, I had a series of really interesting keyboards, and I still have in my studio. But the original was the Farfisa. So all the sounds we got out of the next keyboards were a Farfisa-like sound. And they all had, could have that sound.
But was it easy to tour with these things? Did you have to have a backup? Because it seems like they would, it seems like they'd be fragile and fry out.
Oh, well, the Farfisa was unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. I remember we didn't really have a road crew per se. Cindy's husband, Keith Bennett, was part of our crew in the beginning, was sort of the roadie. And I remember going through Grand Central Station and trying to drag my keyboard. I don't know how I did it, but they were not those guys. Oh, women's lib, we're not helping you.
Right.
So I remember trying to haul that keyboard. Maybe Cindy was helping me, and they had guitar. I don't know what Keith did for the drum set. I don't know. I just remember getting on they must have had one where we played, but I remember seeing the keyboard. I didn't even have a case for it. I remember seeing them throw my keyboard from the plane, the first flights we took, throw it down. And I was like, no, I saw it out the window. No. And I had to tune it each key I had to tune with a screwdriver. You open up the back and you could tune it.
Wow.
With a little screwdriver. So each key had to be tuned. It was just a nightmare, but it had the greatest sound. I mean, it really was great. But soon we upgraded, to
right.
The Jupiter 8, the Roland, and then the Jupiter 8 later. But yeah, it was. Then later, of course, we got road cases and we had a road crew, and we didn't have to do that.
Sure.
But we had to set up when we first played CBGB's and Max's, the very first show at Max's Kansas City. Okay, so Fred is going to plug everything in. I'm going to do the interfaces, the patch cords between the instruments and the amplifiers. And I don't know, then Keith and Ricky were going to set up, heavy stuff. Keith would set up his drums and, Ricky would set up his guitar stuff. And Fred would always just stand there with a plug and just say where do I plug this in? So someone came and helped him plug it in somewhere because
perfect. I would have want nothing else from Fred.
It was just crazy. But it was just completely doing it yourself. And every band was like that in the beginning. You carried your own equipment, you did what you could.
Right.
After you played, you have to load out. And I remember people giving us, we're trying to load out after a show, and people were offering me cocaine all the time. And I thought, I really need that, but no thanks. I really hate cocaine. Right. I never liked that drug. So but a lot of people were fueled by that when they had to do stuff themselves.
Yeah, they gotta find a diner and watch the sun come up, after the show.
We would do that.
But if Ricky is playing these really strange tunings, with missing strings, and then you're over there with a screwdriver trying to find your pitch, was that hard to find harmony between those two things, or did that come quick?
It was pretty easy. I mean, it was all written out. We would have, everything. And Keith wrote a lot of Keith and Ricky wrote a lot of the bass parts already. They wrote the bass parts. So I would just play really what they wrote. So it was integrated with the instrumentation that they wrote. And a lot of times when we jammed, they would write, it would be spontaneous. They wouldn't always have a set track for, they would play, they'd be jamming too. But later it was kind of fine-tuned and, we'd have a bass part.
Not many bands talk about jamming, and creating music so often. The people I talk to on the show, they're they write songs and they teach it to the band and they kind of tell them what to do. But I love that, it must have been so fun to just find the beats and the space in a B-52 song. Like, all right, Fred's gonna come in, and all of a sudden he's here now. And then, okay, well, I got an idea, and maybe we'll harmonize here, or we'll sing in unison, and just like it just must have been so. I mean, for me, dreaming about the B-52s, I mean, I'm as a fly on the wall. I just imagine it being very freeing and fun.
It didn't even work like that. Like, oh, let's put Fred here or Kate here, or let's sing in unison here. It just was more like what happened in the jam. So whatever happened in the jam, we would try to recreate that.
Were you recording it at the time to hear it back, or were you just doing it from memory?
Oh, no. Are you kidding? No, we'd have to record it. Otherwise, it was so chaotic. We'd all be singing at the same time, and Keith and Ricky would be playing whatever. And so this magic would happen, though, when we would record on cassette tape, and then we would edit that on another. We would have a double cassette tape, and we would edit that, and we called it the library. And then we would make another edit, the library of the library, we called it. And so it would just be a series of like, these are magic moments in the jam. And then we would try to piece them together. But it was not really, okay, you two sing, we'll organize it in a fair way. It just had to be organized the way it sort of fit together, like a puzzle.
So what's so interesting is Love Shack wins like an MTV Music Award for Best Group. And like, obviously the B-52s at this point are making like 3 to 4 videos per record, and it's really ramping up. So I was really happy to see that on your new record, you have like 4 music videos going. And the one I freaked out over, Evil Love.
Oh yeah, I love that video.
Oh my God. It's like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill meets Noir that your dad sent you when you were in college.
Kind of a Hitchcocky little bit too.
Yeah, and even a bit of The Residence. Like some of the graphics around it reminded me of like the early Residence black and white films. So can you talk about what it's like to make music videos now?
Oh, it's so different. Well, John Stapleton, who I've been working with, he's was originally, and he still is, the makeup artist that I use on, he works with me on tour. Brandon Liberati does the hair, and John Stapleton the makeup. And he left Mac. He was high up in the Mac world, Mac Cosmetics, and he quit that. And he really wanted to do music videos and just branch out and do different things. And he did that video, and it was amazing because it was so simple. When I think of those videos that we did, like Legal Tender, and the video, especially those earlier videos, and Legal Tender and Song for a Future Generation, what a production. It was like 24 hours of nonstop. We were up all night. And the end of Song for a Future Generation, I remember Cindy just said, I'm going to bed. It was 5 a.m. And they said, wait a minute. And that last scene where we sort of shuffle dancing, like she was like that we did. Okay, let's catch that right away before she leaves.
Oh, I got to watch that with that in mind now. Amazing.
Yeah, we were so tired, and it was just around the clock, and, boom cameras and all kinds of production and sound. And especially when we did good stuff, that was like foam. There was like foam in that. And it was just crazy. The director was blowing a whistle, and like it was just a huge production on a sound stage. So John and Brandon and I did the Evil Love, and back downstairs at the Venetian when we were doing our residency, and he just put a green cloth up, not to dispel the magic, but just did a green screen and had a steering wheel. And so I just pretended to be steering and lip sync the parts, and he did the rest. And it was really amazing. He's just really great. And he did all the other videos too, except for Take Me Back to the Party. I met a young filmmaker at the Woodstock Film Festival, and she did a short film. She was in the Fringe Festival in Scotland doing a one-woman show. So Eleanor Green did part of the video, but she really didn't have time to flesh it out. It was more just her, because I wanted her to be the character. The sad girl that was kind of left. But that was kind of all there was what she provided was the sad girl part. So we needed some vibrancy. So John came in and took some different footage of people of dancing and different, because it is also about dancing, because she wants to go back to the party. So, that was a collaborative, but otherwise he did all the videos.
And I'll put links to the videos in the show notes too. Do you think there's going to be a documentary or a biopic about the B-52s?
We have one in progress. It's a slow progress, but they've interviewed Michael Stipe and they've interviewed Don Was, and they've got all the interviews in the can, so to speak.
Oh,
so
amazing.
We just additional funding and get the thing, done.
Kate, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm still freaking out that I got to spend time with you. I met my oldest friend through the music of the B-52s in a hallway, and I feel like that sums it up. The B-52s, your voice, your records, it's just, I appreciate it so much.
It's so nice that you still are friends, and Tia is also the woman who does my hair color.
There you go. Well, at the end of every episode, I ask the same question, but I tailor it depending on what we're talking about.
Okay.
So on a scale from 12 being the lowest and 52 being the highest, how many girls do you give the magic of Kate Pierson? From 12 girls to 52 girls.
Well, 52, of course.
That's it, exactly. That's what I have here. That is the right answer, 52.
52 is the magic number.
That's right. Kate, thank you so much. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Revolutions Per Movie. We release new episodes every Thursday on your favorite podcast app and additional bonus episodes every Sunday on our Patreon. The show is a completely independent affair, so the best way to support the show is through our Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionspermovie, where you can get weekly bonus episodes and shows, exclusive limited edition flexi discs and records and CDs featuring guests that have appeared on the show, and other exclusive goods sent to you just for joining. You can follow us on social media at Revolutions Per Movie and also find out more information about our various guests in the episode show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye!